All right, everyone, welcome back to Discourse Debrief. This is semester 4, episode 3 now. I'm Logan.
I'm Abby.
And then we have a guest with us that we'll be explaining here in a moment. Abby, we have an event coming up. Do you want to give the deets on that?
Yes, the UA Discourse Series is having a panel discussion about social media and whether they're united or divided, or whether it unites us or divides us. And it will be on February 24th at 7 p.m. No, it's okay. And the location is to be determined, so stay tuned on our social media. Instagram, usually just Instagram.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Jackson, you want to give a short introduction to who you are and what we're talking about here, maybe?
Yeah, I'm a third-year English student, and I'm currently in the process of preparing for Yale Set in April. So yeah, that's taking up most of my time right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I know
right.
That's going to be me next year. So
Yeah.
Awesome. And then what are we talking about today? I know you you chatted with us on Tuesday of the study that you found. Can you explain it?
Yeah. So a neurologist spoke to the Senate. I think it was a week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and the findings suggest that Generation Z is experiencing cognitive deficits relative to the preceding generations. Mm-hmm. So, the Flynn effect is the gradual progression of broad IQ gains that was experienced during the 20th century, and then towards like 95, that sort of started stagnant, mm-hmm. and then we've been experiencing declines ever since.
Okay. Awesome. And then just the measurement, is it like some kind of IQ test? Is it taking like standardized test scores? Like how is it measured?
Yeah. There's multiple different IQ tests. There's the Stanford Binet and other sorts of IQ tests, but they're, for the most part, they're broadly similar. I think a meta-analysis revealed that across the board, we are experiencing cognitive decline, mm-hmm.
As
a result of a culmination of different variables.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just like from a personal experience point, does that feel true, whether for ourselves or the people around us? What are our thoughts on that?
I honestly, it's kind of hard for me to. I don't really know what I think, if I'm being honest. I feel like it depends on the person, because I meet some very smart people and I'm like, okay, our generation is great. And then I meet some really dumb people and I'm like, okay, our generation is cooked. So I don't really know. I couldn't really group our whole generation into one category, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I probably agree. It seems like and I think you also talked about this on Tuesday, mm-hmm. the separation between the smart of the smartest and the dumbest of the dumbest seems to have widened, especially to where, you're absolutely right. There are people that are very, very smart, but the opposite is always so true. And I think the gap between those two has definitely widened.
So you think there's... sorry.
No,
go ahead.
A polarization has occurred, indicated by the data revealed by the neurologist who spoke to the Senate. So the people who are towards -2, -3 standard deviations of intelligence are experiencing more decline across the board as compared to the average.
Sure.
And then on the upper half, the people who tend to fit into the standard deviations of the positive 2 or 3 are experiencing higher gains in intelligence across the board.
Yeah, so there's just a much bigger separation.
Yeah. So do you think there's just fewer average people, with average intelligence, or do you think there's just larger groups in the positive and the negative?
I don't know. I mean, I guess kind of how I would maybe visualize it is once if we're talking about students, once a student meets a threshold of okay, they're probably going to be pretty smart. After that, they're fine. Whereas if we're talking at a fourth grade level, if the student's just not cutting it, they probably never will. And that can be due to a variety of factors that we'll get into. But I mean,
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
Oh, like what's affecting?
Why is there such a separation? Kind of the question you asked me.
Why is there? Okay, I think it definitely has to do with like a socioeconomic gap, just the quality of education that people are receiving. Because I mean, I feel like I don't know if people are necessarily born with a deficient intelligence.
Sure.
I think it's kind of built up, or if at least they are, then if you have a higher quality of education, then you might be able to kind of rebuild those stepping stones. And so I think obviously people in more wealthier areas have access to a higher level of education. And so I think that's also widening the gap because there are people that are in the wealthier areas that have access, and there are people that are in the kind of poorer areas that don't have as much access. And I think that could also be creating the gap, which I feel like has been an issue ongoing for several years, and maybe it's just now affecting our generation. But that's my initial thought process. I'm sure also has to do with technology as well.
Yeah, Jackson, do you have any thoughts on that?
Technology definitely plays a big role, but as it relates to the latter half, the people who are experiencing the lower deviations of standard intelligence, I think that mostly has to do, or I think that's the result of a positive feedback loop. People are they're incentivized not to seek out cognitive straining exercises, and as a result of that, they're less inclined to pursue activities that would sort of strengthen their intelligence, and that would round them out as a person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sort of parallels the like the capitalist society. People are experiencing higher proportional losses at the latter end of the socioeconomic scale, and then the people at the higher end are experiencing dramatic gains in income and wealth, and I think both of those are comparable to each other.
Yeah. As far as like the education, do you think it's just like a path of least resistance kind of thing?
I did look into this. I think the terminology is tech ed, and I think a lot of, I think it comes down to the basic tenet of the human condition to pursue the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And if the path of least resistance is available, then more often than not, people will pursue that. And like more specifically, the path of least existence is outsourcing your cognitive exertion.
Yeah.
And so when there's an opportunity to outsource via Google, AI, technological dependence, then students and academics, they will follow that path. So it's the opportunity to do the least amount of to pursue the least amount of effort. And if that opportunity arises, more often than not, the mean of society will follow that.
Yeah, it's almost like a kind of personal economics thing. It's like opportunity cost. Like you're not going to spend all this time doing something that for a lot of effort if you'll achieve the same result putting in less effort. So, and the fact that we have so many more tools around us that will let us offload, it definitely kind of shows.
I mean, the question is, does Gen Z necessarily need to be as smart as the past generations because of all the tools that we are given? Like we have AI now. They didn't have that. I mean, we basically have Google for the first time, even though it was around, but it's much more advanced now.
I think it depends on how we apply or how that intellectual deficiency like manifests. Like for example, in because I'm a poli-sci guy, in a political sense, like that's very bad. If that's reflected in like voting behavior, that's like very, very bad, like to the point that it's like detrimental to our government and how it works. However, in the workforce, because of how like those tools and how commonplace they are, like probably not a huge issue. I mean, we'll see the effects, but intuitively, I don't know how big of a deal it is. But
yeah, and like this socioeconomic like shift drips into every aspect of society, and the consequences can be seen, everywhere. I want to pursue a medical malpractice a field of law, and so there's many consequences that could result of people outsourcing their cognitive exertion. People reliant on technology and AI automated systems could lead to a drastic increase in the margin of error, which is the result of medical malpractice. So you could be potentially, like theoretically, we don't know yet because there hasn't been a whole lot of AI integration in the medical field, but potentially, people misinterpreting diagnostic output from AI systems could lead to a higher rate of physician error. And that could result in patients suffering from that.
Right.
So there's so many consequences that could result from the reliance of technology and not needing to exert cognition because of a reliance on technology.
Do you guys think, kind of with this phenomena and like the emergence of like AI tools, do you think this will change the way that we either think of or maybe even measure intelligence going forward?
What do you mean by that?
So like, I guess from a school purpose, like we kind of teach the grade, like, oh, if you can memorize these things and put them on a piece of paper, like you're one of the smart ones. But like with more AI, do you think that'll change the way that we think of like not even just intelligence, but maybe even just student success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's definitely going to affect every aspect of our lives. And I think it's totally going to play a role in our school systems, our school structures. I mean, I know we're talking at the collegiate undergrad level about integrating AI into undergrad curricula. Regents prompt. But I think that once that filters down into like the K through 12 schools, it's definitely going to be changing the structure of how we know academics as it is. Because technology plays a big role in our lives, and I think school has changed from the introduction of technology. Why wouldn't it change from the introduction of AI? And especially if we're now measuring these, if we're seeing these declines in intelligence, then maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to measure a different aspect of intelligence, or we need to start valuing a different aspect more.
Yeah, like maybe a shift more towards like adaptability and like resourcefulness rather than like pure, I guess, brain power.
Or being able to like check your sources kind of thing. Like those skills are very important.
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, the change is interesting, but overall, broadly speaking, a deficit in processing power, executive function, and processing speed could lead to consequences that ultimately lead to like the degradation of society as a whole.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is to implement interventions that could possibly, how do I put this?
Like slow down the process of everything?
That could mitigate the dependence on technology.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously this is it's completely theoretical, and it's not really plausible at all, given the state of our country and stuff like that. Nothing would incentivize us to seek out these interventions to try to facilitate processing speed and overall cognition. But I mean, this may sound cynical, but like there's not much I think we can do
Yeah.
to stop or to at least halt the trajectory that we are on, which is that complacency and dependence will continue to prevail.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to the individual person to try to intervene within their own life to make the best possible, to optimize their pre-existing qualities to make themselves as best of a citizen as they can to contribute to the welfare of society. You know,
And that's going to be a very, very small minority.
I know it is. It
Yeah.
is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of opens up the question of like, so we kind of recognize this as an issue, maybe, still kind of to be determined. But let's assume we all recognize this as an issue, what are, if any solutions? Like Jackson seems to be under the impression that there might not be any, but, that remains to be seen. Abby, do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the whole like cultivation theory versus, I'm blanking on what the other one is. Sorry, Ted.
Gratitude and
Yes.
affirmation or something like that?
No, not that, but it's something like that. But yeah, it's the whole thing, like, does technology control us or do we control technology? And I feel like at this point, technology definitely controls us. But on sources like social media, I mean, like, we put everything on the internet. We put everything on technology. It's us.
That's not, I don't know how true that is.
How so?
Dead internet theory is becoming more and more plausible every day.
Okay, well, I have no clue what dead internet theory is.
Dead internet theory is this idea that everything that exists on the internet, social media, is just produced by bots. And the more that I look at social media, the more it's like on Instagram, like every caption is just like AI written, and it's
But
patently
did
obvious.
people make those bots?
Well, I mean
that's the thing. Like, that's the whole question. That's the whole theory, right?
Yeah.
Like, who is the real driving force of this?
Yeah.
Solution-wise, I don't know. I think we just need to adapt. We need to adapt as fast as possible, and we need to start trying things out, because if we don't, then we are going to have technology for sure running our societies.
How do you think we can, manifest that on an institutional level? Is it like something we need to do in the schools, or?
honestly, this may sound cynical, but I don't think it's possible. I think it's up to the individual person to intervene in their own life, to try to do their best to mitigate the consequences of technological compliance and dependency and addiction with short form content, which leads to horrible cognitive consequences. So I mean, there's not much. I mean, given the current state of our country, I don't think it's, and what incentivizes the country, the government to create policies. I mean, they're incentivized to sort of, conform to the consumer. They're beholden to the consumer. We live in a capitalist society, and whatever is most profitable, which is consumer attention and media and stuff like that. I don't think it's plausible to. I don't think it's plausible to think that a broad sociological shift can occur. I think it's up to the individual person to try to do what they think they can best do within their specific circumstance.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay.
I would agree and disagree a little bit. I agree with the fact that it definitely is up to the individual. I mean, you really can't make anyone do what you want them to do. But I think that I'm an optimist, so I think that there are at least some things that we could try to do. I feel like education is a big one. We teach people how to responsibly use technology. We teach people how to responsibly use AI and ethically do so. And then hopefully that way it will eliminate some of the reliance on technology or the addiction. If we can just put it in a more controlled environment, or attempt to from an early age, I think there may be some positive results from that.
Go ahead.
I do agree with you there, but I don't think there's anything that state governments would think. I don't think there's anything that would incentivize state governments to change the current curriculum of school systems in that corresponding state. So I don't know if, I mean, just from a pragmatic state of view, I mean, there's no reason why a state would change the curriculum that it currently has.
Yeah, I think to me though, like fear is a really big driving factor of a lot of change. And I think that those statistics that you were telling us about in that study that you were talking about is terrifying. I think that is so
absolutely.
scary. And I think if more people start realizing this phenomenon and like become scared of it, then it will motivate that change.
Yeah.
And because it's what the people want, really.
And that's where I come in, and I think most people are oblivious, and most people are just living, autonomously, and they go throughout their daily lives without really understanding the consequences of their behavior. So it's like, we live in this period of time in a state of ignorance and obliviousness, and it's hard to create these dramatic sociocultural shifts when people, they're autonomous most of the time, and they're not really understanding the consequences of the behavior and how they go about life and how they go about thinking.
Yeah, I think my position's kind of between the two of you. Now, whether or not what I'm about to say, like our current government will actually do that, that's a whole other issue. But I think, Jackson, I broadly agree with you. There is no incentive structure. However, I do think that our schools can kind of help within the margins. So, like for example, from my perspective, like as a student, like I am pretty lazy. I won't say how that reflects in my work, but where that's not true is subjects that I'm actually interested in. Like for example, in high school, my best classes were like history and like government, and those were the classes that I like put a lot of effort into because the topics were just interesting to me. So I think what we can do, or what the government should do, like at an educational level, is prioritize learning for the individual. Let's start experimenting with classrooms that are much smaller than like your 24 or your 30s in some districts, and let's start teaching to the person's curtailed interests rather than like, this broad umbrella curricula that everyone needs to go through. And I think that could lead to a generation that isn't as dependent on AI because they're actually like interested in their own learning and the topics that they're being taught.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I had my high school in Texas. I know I hate on Texas a lot, but this was a really good thing. They had like a separate school that you could go to that was career specific for what you wanted to do. And so obviously I want to go into law. And so they had me take a year course just kind of learning basics about law. And then the second year I was interning at the district attorney's office in Texas. And I think that really, really made me want to go to school. That really made me want to like explore that field a little bit more. And I just found that I was taking my time outside of school and learning about the law and learning about like all the different things that happen, the moving parts of the courtroom. And so I think that is a great strategy. And I think it would really activate some of those, like the deficits of the brainwaves that we're seeing.
And again, whether or not it's like plausible with our government, like obviously that if we divorce that from our current situation, I think that's a good structure to work towards. If you have an opinion on that.
No, I definitely think that's idealistic, and I feel like that is. That's an option that could be conducive in, bettering students and prospective workers in job markets. But I mean, honestly, I just feel like that's unrealistic.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Broad changes, like systematic changes in, state universities. It's just
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
mean,
it's unrealistic.
when the next generations start to be in Congress, we'll see. But as it stands right now, no, I completely agree.
Well, I just want to note one positive. I do see 3 people here that recognize this as a problem, and we are
True.
going to be entering the job market
And it's not just us.
soon, and it's not just us. And so I think all it really takes are a few people that have power to
Yeah.
make change.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. And the most important part is like recognizing the solution. So like Jackson, to your point, like the 80-year-olds in our government, they don't even know about AI. They don't know how much of a problem this is.
Aw.
So, it does give me some hope that in the next couple decades, the next generations, like maybe we'll start to see some changes that are.
Yeah. I mean, we might
actually
be
good.
dead before then, but
True.
hopefully it happens eventually.
True. Any thoughts on that? Any other questions or topics you guys want to discuss on this?
No, not really. I mean,
I think we should. Definitely talk about, leaving aside like the educational aspect of it, more in, recreational use of technology.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
short form content.
Or
yeah,
like
social media.
Yeah.
And social media.
Brain
and I
rot.
feel like that has such a dramatic effect in, the consequences of, chronic short form content use, and I mean it's just the cognitive consequences are just so drastic that I think it overwhelms the deficits in the educational
Yeah.
system far more. Yeah.
Yeah.
My position has kind of shifted over time. I don't think the issue is necessarily the content, because like we all grew up with like stupid stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
I think what's changed is just access to it.
Yeah.
So to your point, like how short things are, and like how every household probably has like 50 billion screens in it. Like, yeah, that definitely the increased access has a lot to do with.
I also think
probably what we're seeing.
it's a popularity, like cultural shift that
Yeah.
we've seen where people the younger generations are placing a lot of emphasis on connection on social media and on the internet. I know I've fallen victim to it many times, but it's another thing. Like I want to use kind of, I know it's very different, but like a cyberbullying like analogy, I guess. So you're getting bullied at school, right, in person by these people, and then you go home and you're also getting bullied online. So it's with you everywhere. And that's kind of how I feel about technology. Like we go to school and all of my assignments are on a laptop. I mean, some professors don't do that, but most of them do. It's all on a laptop. It's all of these different programs, and then I go home and my friends are sending me TikToks and they're sending me Instagram Reels, or I'm having to like interact with people. I mean, even for the UA Discourse Series, a lot of our promotional stuff has been on social media because it reaches the audience that we want it to reach. But that's kind of what everything is becoming. Companies are shifting to more of a social media approach and marketing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, yeah, because kind of with the capitalism thing, they'd be dumb not to, because
Yeah.
that's going to reach the most amount of eyes.
even politics has been doing that too.
Advertising is an extremely lucrative area right now. So yeah, I mean, there's the incentive structures are all there, and they're all really, really strong.
Yeah. I think it follows you everywhere. You always have it. I'm not seen without my phone, not because I'm addicted to it. I'd love to not be with my phone, but because I have to, because that's where my whole life is.
Yeah, 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 and it's not just in a social sense either. Like your bank account's on your phone.
No, exactly. Everything is tapped now.
Yeah.
Ding.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we've kind of already said, like that's never going to go away. We're never going to quote unquote regress to a less digital world. I mean, if anything, the rate of progression is just going to increase. So yeah, I guess I agree, Abby. You were saying earlier, like adaptability, learning how to use effectively, and then,
Yeah, I mean that's just the only solution I see.
Yeah, and maybe we can implement some kind of safeguards and like, okay, this type of content's just like serves no purpose, and it's like just straight up damaging to our brains. Like maybe we can do something about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and like from a neurobiological standpoint, the more you digest short form content, the more you rewire the circuits in your brain. You know, you rewire and strengthen neural pathways in your brain, and I mean, you know, dopamine is it's a learning neural pathway. So you know, when you scroll through a short form content, dopamine is secreted, and that reinforces the pathway to continually seeking out short form content. And then like the consequences of that, inattention, loss of processing speed, and a whole bunch of consequences across many different domains in your brain. And that started in '95, with the beginning of the internet, short form content, and it's been seeing a progressively increasing decline in overall, broadly speaking, in intelligence metrics. Which is really concerning.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, maybe we can all just kind of give sort of our experience with short form content, and I guess I'll start. YouTube Shorts is kind of my go-to. I love it a lot. But at the same time, if I'm walking to class, and I'm gonna sound like the biggest loser, I'll be listening to 4-hour-long debates because that's what I'm interested in. So I guess I kind of have this mix of sometimes I'm really into the short form, and then sometimes I really like listening to these long conversations. Especially if it's something I'm into.
Well, yeah, because it's something you're interested in, which is why I like your approach about the schools, but I do understand how it would be very difficult to change the entire structure. Me personally, a lot of the short form content that I consume is on TikTok. I mean, I like TikTok. It's entertaining for me. But I do also like to, I don't like to watch debates, but I like to watch longer YouTube videos, 2-hour YouTube videos that are about niche topics. Sometimes it's history, sometimes it's ghost videos, but it's things that keep me engaged in one thing. But also, I don't necessarily know if that's benefiting me in any way. I mean, the history one, sure, because I'm learning about history, but other things, no.
Yeah. What about you?
In what way?
It's just your kind of experience with short form content. Do you use it a lot, or what's your kind of preferred?
So I like to consider myself fairly disciplined. I don't have Instagram on my phone, and I sometimes access it on my laptop. And I try to limit short form content and really any content at all as much as possible. And I don't know. My philosophy is that I try to improve myself cognitively, emotionally, and physically every single day of my life. And consuming short form content can lead to a slippery slope. You just hours and hours and hours and hours, and I can recognize that I'm an impulsive person by nature. So I try to create interventions that would help me prevent to succumb to the short form content and just being completely engrossed in all the media. And so I just try to do my best to limit the content that could possibly lead to the regression of me, emotionally, cognitively, and physically.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying, that that slippery slope has very, very much tracked the progression of technology. You had books that took up a lot of your attention if that's something you wanted to be into, and then TV came around, and okay, you could now watch this instead of read it, but you were limited on what was actually being shown. And then the internet came out, so now you have YouTube videos that you can watch whatever you want. You're not limited by what's available. I mean, kind of, but a lot's available. And now we've gotten to much shorter content, so everything's within 30 seconds. And then kind of along the way, the point of these videos have sort of just lost meaning, and it's all just entertainment and like, you know, shock factors almost. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the attention spans we're seeing, and you know, maybe serves as a sort of a reason for why we're seeing more, you know, issues with anxiety, issues with you know, just mental health in general. I definitely think it's a big part of that.
I think this whole like short form content, I know it was around way before, but I feel like I have no recollection of it prior to 2020 during COVID, because I feel like we were in such a strange phenomenon where we couldn't talk to people.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for ways to have that human connection. And so we went online, and then we've just never shifted away from that after we've come out of quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can never say like how COVID directly affected that, but it would be interesting to see like if we didn't have that, like how would things look today from like a mental health perspective.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Anything else from either of you?
No? I don't have anything. He's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, back again to what I was saying earlier. I think it comes down to people more often than not pursuing the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And because of, you know, the cultural environment that we live in today, you know, contemporary society that we live in today, it's far easier to, you know, scroll on your phone for hours than it is to cognitively exert yourself via books, you know, research and other means. So it's not, we shouldn't be condemning anyone. I mean, it's completely reasonable for people to be experiencing these cognitive declines given the world that we live in.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, you know, we are just kind of heading towards a really weird place that
Uncharted territory.
Yeah, exactly. That no one really knows what to do. Yeah, we may be discussing this in our event though, talking about social media.
Yes,
So
please attend. We would love to see everyone there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a really good place to wrap up.
That's it.
Yeah. That's all she wrote. I've been Logan.
I've been Abby.
Jackson.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching. Stay tuned on more details for our event coming up, and we will see you all next week. Thanks
Bye,
for
guys.
watching.